there was glare on the windshield, so I wasn't sure it was his, but I think it was his expedition.
Okay. Well, good morning. It is 10:01 and I'd like to call the Wednesday, May 20th, 2026 meeting of the Tucson-Pima County Joint Consolidated Code Committee to order. Roll call, please.
Rick Bright,
Here.
Dennis Kuhn,
Here.
Fred Knapp,
Here.
Jeff Hamstra,
Here online.
Ken Cawthorn, Thomas Hayes,
Here.
Dave Gibbons.
Here.
Chair, we have a quorum.
Okay. So we'll go to item 2, approval of the minutes. Everyone's read them? Yes. They're pretty short. I got a question, a stupid question. Why do they call it a legal action report?
This is Clayton with the City of Tucson. So following a meeting, a public meeting, a legal action report is produced. When the committee votes on the concurrence of the information of that legal action report, it becomes meeting minutes. So it's not meeting minutes until the committee approves the content.
Legal distinction.
Yeah.
Okay. So they might care to make a motion on the minutes?
Motion to be accepted as record.
Have a second?
This is Dennis, I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor? Any? Okay. Now on to item 3, there's a call for the audience. Are we expecting somebody?
This is Clayton with the City of Tucson. We have adjusted the agenda to bring the call to the audience up to the top, similar to the format of mayor and council. And this is specifically intended to hear any comments that we may have from constituents that may relate to your future agenda item discussion for adding topics to future meetings. So it's more of a coordination, just to make sure that we've can limit dialogue between the committee and the audience during call to the audience, but also hear those concerns or potential requests for future items prior to discussing what to include on a future agenda.
Okay. Well, we have some people online and one member here. Anyone care to speak up? Oh, everybody must be content with what we're doing. Okay, well, let's move on to item 4. Energy code update.
Morning, everybody. This is Dan with Pima County. This is just more of an update on the energy code adoption with the Board of Supervisors. They did adopt the energy code on May 12th during our first night meeting. So that was an interesting meeting. But it was adopted. However, they have also directed staff to come back and revisit or reevaluate some of the commercial sections, specifically section C 405.12, the automatic receptacle control functions, 405.13, the energy monitoring, 405.15, the renewable energy, and then section 406.1 with the square footage revisions.
So make it more like the original presented code.
Well, they're really concerned about the elimination of the 405, 12, 13, and 15 completely, and 406.1. The square footages that was decided on eliminates about 80% of commercial buildings. So there was concern on that. They felt that in order to do that, we needed to provide analysis or modeling of impacts of energy use, intensity, and related emissions as a result of the changes. So they have asked us to revisit these and bring them back to the board on September during a September 26th meeting. It's my understanding that Chair Allen's office has also reached out to some of the ward offices to hold a discussion concerning these items. So I don't know if Clayton has received any directives at this point, but that was how the board passed our the energy code during the board meeting.
Clayton?
So, yes, the city has not received any specific guidance from mayor and council, but we are anticipating a similar request to provide analysis to either justify the amendments or potentially start the process to roll them back, which the committee has discussed multiple occasions during previous meetings. So our recommendation would be to add agenda items and reconvene next month on our regularly scheduled day and time with agenda specifically towards those concerns. So, you know, as Dan pointed out, there are 5 or 6 specific questions related to the amendments. So we will probably break those down on the agenda so that we can talk about each of them individually and work our way through any supporting documentation. City of Tucson Planning and Development Services is actively seeking any reports, analysis, or documentation from industry experts that may be available. And we anticipate more information will become available throughout, you know, the course of the year as more and more jurisdictions are adopting the 24 Energy Conservation Code. So we will provide our research to you as you know, we collect that to support your discussion.
As another directive we've had from the board was to also include the county's Climate Action Advisory Committee in the discussion of this. I don't know at this point, I don't know exactly how that is going to take place. Lauren Ortega, DSD's director, will be meeting with the head of the climate action team next Tuesday to decide how they want to be involved. I don't know if they just want to review the amendments, if we make revisions, or if they want to be included in discussions during the code committee meeting. At this point, I'm not exactly sure.
And then this is Clayton again. So I want to also follow up on some initiatives that we've already put into motion, specifically PNNL, Pacific Northwest National Laboratory research, as it relates to specific ComCheck and ResCheck software catered to our current amendments. That is in process. They have not completed it yet, but I have received information that they are still actively building those unique ComCheck software applications. In addition to a specific analysis to the potential differences between our amendments and the prescriptive code. So the Pacific Northwest National Laboratory is working on 2 projects for the city of Tucson. One, to develop software based on our amendments, and a second, to assess the difference in energy conservation compared to the prescriptive code versus our amendments.
So that'd be wonderful.
You know, as that develops, we will continue to, you know, provide you with that. We just don't have anything back from them yet.
Okay.
This will be an interesting discussion.
So
Because
this,
it's always a cost benefit. And depending on where your values fall, those decisions are
Right.
different, right?
so this is Ken, and you know, what I've been seeing and everything I've been looking up is there's always been things on energy savings, but nothing on what the cost impact is for first cost impact. So that's, I think, a big struggle that we've been seeing. And the other thing I was going to point out is some of the amendments. I mean, do things differently in our committee as compared to like, I keep comparing us to like Phoenix Code Committee, because they're very thorough about when they have an amendment, the reasoning behind it, they always print that out. And so if you get an opportunity, that would be good to look at, especially for those 405 sections. They've gone into detail on why they recommended to eliminate those. And I think they're very justified on why they did it, and I think we are too. So, but like I said, where I've been struggling is I can't find anything that says what the cost impact is on some of these items that we've amended. So I think that would be helpful also, because they all have probably some energy savings depending on how you look at it. Some of them I'm not sure how, like the receptacles that are on motion sensors. I'm not sure, and same with the I don't know how the metering of the panels on small facilities is going to help save energy either. So there's some things like that that I'm not sure how they're going to justify the savings. And I'm not sure how we would show how that would be less energy savings on things like those. So I think those are things we could talk about with that other committee, the Climate Action Committee. And I think just to inform that, to get their input on why they think those things are necessary and how they feel that they can save energy. And then with regards to section 406, I wrote Dan a long email describing the cost impact, at least mechanically, on that section. And for this smaller building, especially for smaller buildings, how that would be, dramatic for small buildings. Because remember, it was, if you're 2,000 square feet, you had to do all the energy savings, and if you're 5,000 square feet or more, you had to do all the load management savings items. And so, for a 6,000 square foot building, it could be detrimental for them.
Well, basically, you eliminate that size building from the marketplace.
At least
Either
in,
have to be
at least in
smaller
the,
or
yeah.
big enough, right?
Yeah.
Everything in between would go away. It's not cost
Right.
effective.
The other thing I've done is, because the Phoenix has been adopted the 24 energy code already, and since August, but they were making it you didn't have to use it since January, I think. So now since January, they've been using it. So the ComCheck still doesn't have jurisdictions down on it. There's no pull down where you could pick your jurisdiction. So what Phoenix did is they kind of got a 30-page document, because right now they basically have said, we don't know how to check it. So if somebody sends in some plans and has some kind of a spreadsheet or whatever they have, they don't know how to check it. So they've developed a 30-page document that basically takes the 30 pages that were in the IECC and kind of just narrows it down to their climate zone, which is the same as ours, and have you go through and basically fill out how many points you're getting on each of one of these items.
Well, part of the cost is the engineering cost.
Correct, right. So I also did check with Quest Energy. They're up there. They do energy modeling for a lot of smaller firms and things like that. And they said they've primarily been doing energy modeling. They have done some of the ComChecks for the really small buildings. But they said what they've been finding is that it takes them longer to do the ComCheck than to do the energy model.
Really?
And so most of the time they've been trying to do the energy model unless they can't get it to pass. Then they go back and start trying to do the ComCheck, but that takes a lot of time for them because it's an iterative process. All right, so we need to add this.
Right.
Somebody needs to design this and include this additional equipment or in their design.
Right.
So that's what they've been having. That's why it's a little bit longer time for them.
Which means it's more engineering fees.
Which means there's more cost, right?
I would limit that to be engineering fees, there will be more design fees.
Correct.
Because it's the entire design of the building would involve architect and potentially
Correct.
civil engineers
Yeah.
and others. And the problem is it fundamentally has to change the design process because so many projects now get farmed out to various engineering divisions and the architect sort of pulls it together. But now there does need to be more of the iterative process between the whole team. And I think that's going to come as a big shock to the design industry that's used to pointing at an electrical engineer and say, well, the IECC for lighting is yours. You just figure out your part. It doesn't really work that way anymore because
We need
my
more points.
changes
Right.
depending on what other decisions are made.
Yeah.
And so that's all well and good to say, well, we should all be doing these things. But I come back to the question of who is available to do that? I mean, I don't exactly have people knocking on my door say, hey, I want an engineering job.
Right.
And then anybody wants to develop a project, they have to pay for all that time also. And then you look at what kind of payback do you get from spending all that money up front versus your energy savings.
And you're just talking about design fees.
That's just design.
Not construction.
Then you have to put the actual products in or additional insulation, whatever it would be, which costs more money. And yeah, there could be a payback. And some of these things to me feel like they're California Title 24 spreading into the IECC in general. But you look at California where electrical cost can be anywhere from 30 to 70 cents a kilowatt hour.
Plus demands.
And the huge demand fees and all that. We're not at that point here, but that's one of the reasons why California has tried to squeeze every last little bit of energy saving they can in their building regulations. But I understand the environmental side of it. We don't want to waste our clean air and do extra pollution, but at the same time, there's a matter of being able to afford, and that's the balance we got to strike.
This is Dan. I understand that. One thing Chair Allen did say is that she doesn't feel the framing of the discussion as a choice between business and climate is a useful one.
It's not useful.
Is not a useful.
They elaborate? Why? What?
It's not a useful discussion is what she was saying. They are obviously concerned about the climate. I think our task is to provide the documentation and so forth, showing that these items don't necessarily make the building more energy efficient.
So it doesn't care how much it costs?
I'm not going to speak for her. I'm just saying.
That's what I'm reading into it.
Yeah.
That's what I read it.
Whatever it costs,
The fundamental goal is the resisting climate change and putting in controls on building to reduce climate change. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, she goes on to say we need a code that is practical and easily understood by our contractors and developers, yet strong enough to reduce community energy use, lower long-term consumer energy costs, and support building stock over.
Well, this ain't it, is it?
Yeah.
Well, simple.
Well, I think we did simplify it though.
We did.
That's what I'm saying,
If
thinking,
we're starting to go back to the original document. That's
which is
more-
not simple.
It's not simple, right?
Right.
And I think that needs to be pointed out, I think, is just what we tried to do was simplify it. And these items that take an exorbitant amount of design and construction cost, and the payback is fairly minor. So there probably is no payback. Then we tried to reduce that to only be on just try to reduce that period. Yeah. So, I mean, I go back to the whole thing with the receptacles on occupancy sensors. I mean, just think about the cost of that. And how do you even justify if is any savings at all? Because nobody's gonna plug into those.
To that point, this is Clayton. I will just say that part of my research is also based on behavior. So from a building fire life safety perspective, we want to make sure that, you know, the codes are producing buildings that are effective. And if there is a behavioral issue that can be documented, such as power strips plugged into the non-controlled receptacles to avoid plugging anything into the controlled receptacle, then it is of significant point for us to consider, because that is a behavioral shift in how the buildings are being used as a direct result of the codes that are being imposed, which means that the code is not effective.
Wow.
Yeah,
So one thing we haven't talked about just now is 405.15, which is the requirement for renewable energy.
Right.
So,
and that was one of the sticking points that they
Yeah.
did bring up too.
so we scratched that essentially on freedom of choice issues and upfront cost issues and delayed payback. But I think in most cases, you can ultimately demonstrate a payback on putting renewable energy in buildings. I don't really like the idea though of buying these renewable energy credits. That seems like that's just extracting money from development. But that one, we probably need to think about.
Wow. So is this in fact primarily the commercial code, not the residential? They're,
All those sections,
All these sections were commercial.
so they're concerned about the commercial, not so much the residential then.
Yeah, but they did ask, Supervisor Scott also asked that we continue working with the residential if there's items that we think we need to be adjusted, which we've already committed to do, so.
Right. Well, I mean, I'm sure we're gonna get pushback from the residential building because they're struggling with costs, increases already, not adding anything else. So,
Yeah, they were trying to reduce what we currently have.
Yeah, they're trying to go back to some stuff. Interestingly enough, looking at some of the HERS ratings we were getting under the 2018 code, they are complying with the 2024 code. But there is the added duct insulation and some of the other stuff that can increase the cost of.
yeah, they do actual field inspections.
Yeah.
On the HERS rating.
Yeah.
Which to me has a much bigger impact
Mhm.
than necessarily what the requirements are.
Right.
If they don't insulate it properly,
Right. I would also agree with that. But anyway, it's something we've committed. We will continue to look at it. In conversations with Saba, you know, I think both Clayton and I have suggested, well, you need, you know, if people feel that way, provide us some documentation, just don't, or proof, just don't say it's gonna cost $3,000 to $9,000 additional dollars to meet the energy code requirement.
I guess the next question is, what's a reasonable payback time for return on investment? 5 years, 30 years?
There's actually information on that. Yeah, residential, believe it or not, was easier to find some of this
Yeah,
stuff.
I agree.
It
is. Commercial is almost impossible.
And well, like anything, it varies, but it could be as quick as 5 to 7 years based on what.
Kind of key metric that needs to be established is what's the payback period?
No, I'm not necessarily disagreeing with that. I'm just,
Yeah, it'd be nice if the financing for homes was where the cost savings for energy were taken into account. When someone qualifies for a mortgage, in most places it's not. I would think there'd be enough data at this point to justify it, but.
And just to let you know also, so there's been, I've informed you in the past about the number of amendments in ASHRAE 90.1, the 2022 edition, which was utilized to create the 2024 IECC. So that could be another thing we look at it, but I just hate rewriting codes. You know, that's something that I don't think we want to necessarily do.
Didn't sign in the right.
Right, whereas we catch the 2024 IECC up to the ASHRAE 90.1, which would be a lot of rewriting, I guess. So we could look at that as, you know, because they have all these sections that eliminated, they've modified now, and they're in their code. And now ASHRAE 90.1, what they do is they're a living document, right? So now they come out with the 2025 edition, which has just been published. And so that kind of gives we could use that also as some guidance if we wanted to look at keeping some of these sections, but maybe looking at how they've changed. So.
Well, that's kind of the problem. We don't have enough practical data on this new code to see really what the impact is going to be.
Right.
With any specificity, yeah.
Right. And realize just going up to Phoenix, they've eliminated some of the sections that we've also eliminated. So we can't go up there and say, hey, how's it going up there with these? Because they've eliminated those too. So
I got a question. Do we know of any jurisdiction that has adopted that 2024 code as is without
amendments?
I'm not aware of any.
Scottsdale, maybe?
No,
Scottsdale stuff.
till 2021. So there's,
They're out of
correct me if
sync with everybody.
correct me if I'm wrong, there's been about only like 6 or 7 jurisdictions in all of Arizona
I
that
haven't
have adopted the
I haven't
2024.
checked lately, but I believe the city was the 5th and we were the 6th.
Right. So there's not a lot.
But they've adopted it with amendments. right?
They've all adopted it with amendments. So if they have adopted it, so like, maybe it was Chandler that adopted it, I think. And they have this similar amendments to what we do and Phoenix does. So.
Hey, Ken, this is Dan. Quick question. Didn't ASHRAE eliminate some of the same section that we did?
So that's what Phoenix came back and said, and that's why they were eliminating it. But now I'm going back through and checking those sections, and some of those sections are still there. But they've been modified, they've been heavily modified. So maybe that's what they mean by ASHRAE eliminated, is they've just been modified from what they originally had. So they are still there, because I thought that too. So, and the problem is you had so many amendment, there was no single document. So you had to go through the hundreds of amendments to try to find it, which was super time consuming. So now since they come out with 2025, I'm seeing that some of those sections are still there. They've just been modified.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but you're gonna bring back this on the agenda and we're meeting quarterly? Is that the plan?
This is Clayton, as a direct result of the inquiries, we will be scheduling a meeting next month and most likely monthly
Monthly?
until we can produce, a set of responses to the inquiries.
And I have one more point on this issue. Given that we're 7 months away from year 2027 and the IECC would be published again in 2027, I wonder what that's going to be.
Right.
And is there
Are we spending?
any way of previewing that? Because that could I don't know what the feedback generally has been to the 2024. And, will there be a change in 2027?
And so this the problem I see is that so many jurisdictions across the country, here we are in middle of 2026, has still not adopted the 2024. And so I just can't imagine, I think this whole thing is just kind of.
It's running past the.
Correct, yeah.
They keep putting out new and stricter rules and.
And this
well,
is
the
so,
country
it's so dramatically
thing to the
different,
side.
right? And it's so dramatically different than
Well,
anything we've ever
I'm
seen.
just wondering if the ICC has recognized the fact that they've run off the rails and that they maybe will try to pull back.
I doubt
Or are they gonna keep going, that.
I would imagine they're gonna model it after the 2025 90.1. Is probably what they're gonna do.
Do we have anybody from Arizona that sits on that committee?
Which,
The Energy Code Committee,
And
the people that are writing this.
International Code Council.
Right.
oh,
I mean, we got people that sit
Yeah,
on
Myers.
various committees, but Energy Code,
Jim Myers is.
So this is Clayton. I can't speak to the current committee members, but I would like to address the method of writing codes. So the ICC consensus process to implement code changes includes proposals from anyone. Anyone can propose a code change. That code change is then heard by a committee, and the committee makes a recommendation to either support it or disapprove it. However, the committee is not the actual body that adopts the code. Those recommendations are then passed forward to the 4,000 plus voting members, which are only made up of jurisdictional staff. So for example, the city of Tucson has 12 voting seats. That would be similar to every jurisdiction in the city that is an ICC member. Based on the jurisdiction size is how many voting seats are allocated to each jurisdiction. So the codes are actually adopted by jurisdictional members. The committee makes recommendations for that process. So just want to clarify, the committee is not actually the ones writing the code. The codes are, the code proposals are written by anyone. And the committee doesn't actually adopt those proposals. The jurisdictional members do.
well, similar to this committee, we don't adopt them, we just recommend to.
Precisely.
It strikes me as being odd, though, that you've got the ICC, which is representative of building officials and building departments, voting in favor of the 2024 ICC, but then their own jurisdictions aren't adopting them. Seems like a very strange process to me.
This is Rick Holm. I haven't been to one of those meetings. At those meetings, there are also people standing up for and against. There's a lot of going on trying to get those before they're actually voted on, after it comes out of the committees. So it's quite a lengthy process, a lot of stuff going on before the votes are actually taken.
But anybody on any of those committees doesn't have to be a city or county official.
The committee makeup is very prescribed, I will say. And the majority of the committee is required to be representatives of a jurisdiction. So you can't have a committee that's entirely made up of, product developers, for example.
So it's similar to what we're doing locally.
Except, this building code committee is made up of very specific folks, engineers, architects, contractors. However, none of this committee member represents either Pima County or City of Tucson. That's different for the ICC committees because those require a specific percentage of jurisdictional staff.
Gotcha. So for this, I guess for these meetings, should we hear from the other committee as far as are they going to come and express their concerns, or other than what they just want us to look at this and justify why we've done what we've done?
That's part of it. I think that the Climate Advisory Committee like I said, I won't know until my director meets with
Okay,
theirs. But, they definitely want to be,
right.
I'm just not sure if it would be through discussions or suggestions for amendments and stuff, but they have offered to try to help figure out some of this
Sure.
information and so forth. So,
So is it possible to have a joint meeting? To me, it'd be nice to sit in the same room with people that
I'm sure that,
do and kind of,
Which is what we did when we developed it, right?
right,
This is Clayton with the city. We will be extending invitations to both Pima County and City of Tucson climate action representatives for the next meeting.
Good,
okay.
okay.
Yeah, I think that's helpful when we get face to face with people.
Mhm.
I'm sure they're not monsters.
no, they're not.
Okay, so are we finished with the energy code for now?
Rick's got.
Rex?
If there's any questions about the NEC process, I just finished with the 2026 code sitting on code panel 8. So I can answer a lot of questions about the NEC and stuff. Plus, I'm putting together a code update class equal to the one I did in December for the 20 and 23 updates. It'll be coming up hopefully next month.
Any last words on the energy code?
No.
Then we'll move on quickly. So we have item 5, continued discussion on emergency housing and micro cabins.
This is Clayton with the City of Tucson. So we presented to this body some draft language that we've been considering for possible code amendments, more appropriately how to apply a consistent set of regulations during the City of Tucson's housing declaration. So this committee at the previous meeting discussed several key aspects that I'd like to point out. Number one, the committee talked about the minimum energy requirements. I think this is a key point since we just got done talking about the Energy Conservation Code, so I'll lead with this. A reduction of energy criteria for micro cabins below the standards for new single-family residences would not be consistent with the Energy Conservation Code. So the committee did recommend that we consider perhaps a lower R value for walls and ceilings for micro cabins as it relates to their small nature. However, as it relates to this ongoing conversation about energy conservation, the city will continue to recommend that we use at least the prescriptive allowances of the IRC applied to micro cabins for consistency.
Wow, that's big, because that's a lot of insulation on a little room.
I'm glad you brought that up because we have seen several models already being produced as examples and or potential prototypes, some of which are actually now being installed in different prototype or pilot locations. Each of those have prescriptive values of insulation, aka 2x4 walls with R13 in the walls, 2x10 or similar roof cavities with R30 continuous over the top. So that would meet the minimum prescriptive allowances of the IRC. So as it relates to the quantity of insulation, we are already seeing products that do meet the prescriptive allowances of the IRC.
And these are just 200 square foot
200 square feet or less.
less.
Some of them are right around 70 square feet and additional.
Stable.
Yeah, and some of them are right around 120 square feet. Those tend to be the two that we're seeing most common, 70 and 120, as far as like the range. Might be 123 or it might be 74, but that's right in the size category that are being investigated right now.
Thermos bottles.
So how are you permitting those? Just
So the current City of Tucson declaration does provide express authority to the building official and the fire marshal to consider unique considerations for these. So during the current declaration, we have the ability and the flexibility to consider modifications to the prescriptive code. Since these types of structures do not automatically meet the code, there's no classification that currently exists for them. To that topic, as far as how we would classify these buildings, there is ongoing discussion as it relates to that. The proposal that we provided to you at the last meeting suggested that we might add an occupancy group within the R category, namely R5. The current occupancy groups include R1, 2, 3, and 4, so we would be adding another one if we went that route. There is some resistance to this approach, simply because all our occupancies in the IBC and the International Fire Code require automatic fire sprinkler protection. However, the micro cabins that are being designed right now do not include any plumbing whatsoever. So requiring sprinklers in a building that doesn't have plumbing has been a bit of a sticking point with some of the designers and folks that are interested in supporting the distribution of these. So we will have ongoing conversations. We are meeting with the fire department again tomorrow to talk through additional concerns, options, and considerations. But just to let you know, this is a bit of an ongoing consideration. One proposal was to classify it something other than R. Since we are, developing new code language, that is certainly a possibility. However, from my approach, I don't see the benefit of classifying it as something else if the building itself design is not changing. So whether we require sprinklers or not is one thing, but simply calling it something else to avoid the sprinklers, I think is part of that ongoing discussion.
But aren't single-family residences exempt from sprinklers unless it was previously required?
That is correct.
Right.
So
So
the
you're
city,
saying this is more of a commercial than a residential project? It's not
Correct.
single-family.
So-
obviously.
Planning and Development Services approach is that this is a commercial occupancy for several reasons. Number one, there is no plumbing. So there's no restroom, there's no kitchen, which means it does not qualify as a dwelling unit. Because there's no plumbing, it also doesn't meet the definition of a sleeping unit. So if it's not a dwelling unit and it's not a sleeping unit, it would have to be something else or accessory to a dwelling unit. In order to build it according to the IRC, then it would have to be accessory to a single family residence. However, we're talking about transitional housing in a shelter configuration. So the only way these function is with the supporting services of external restrooms, external kitchens or cooking facilities, social services, things of that nature. So it only works in a campus scenario where all of those other services are provided, and the single family residence does not quite get us there. So
Getting close to that.
right. So simply comparing it to the IRC is, I think, falling short of the true needs of this type of transitional housing. It does clearly fall within a commercial classification that requires all of those supporting services to make it function as a cumulative set of buildings.
So instead of an R5, it should be a TH.
TH or a C. Someone even, sarcastically called it a Z. But again, what we call it wouldn't change how safe the building is. What we require in the building would
But if
change its safety.
it's an R, it automatically does have to be fired sprinkler,
Correct.
which would make the building, presumably make it safer.
If the sprinklers are provided, it would make it safer, yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, but we currently have 4 R categories, R1 through 4. Some of them are commercial, some of them are single-family residents, or one single-family residence.
yeah. Or ordinarily, those, you wouldn't choose to follow the IBC for a single family residence, though.
No, because that's
Because you
specifically
could use the IRC.
Yeah, the limitations would be size or number of stories. For example, you can't build a 4-story single-family residence under the IRC. If you wanted a 4-story single-family residence, you would be required to use the IBC.
That's why it's in the IBC.
Other considerations that this committee talked about is the interconnection of smoke detectors. That was well heard and further discussed. We have removed the recommendation that smoke detectors are interconnected between separate detached micro cabins. So just as an update there, we would still require the smoke detector, but not require interconnection.
Yeah.
And then an additional recommendation was that each micro cabin is provided with a 2.5 pound fire extinguisher. So that has also been added to the draft language. We will redistribute the draft language as we refine these final recommendations. Right now, we don't have enough consensus to redistribute those draft, but we will distribute as soon as we get to that point.
Who else is looking at it? Is that just staff or do you have some outside?
We do have some outside consultants. We've got some private designers that are very interested, some nonprofit organizations that would probably be operating the shelter operation, for lack of a better term. And also we are heavily invested in other departments, other building departments in other municipalities. And of course, the city of Tucson's fire department is a major contributor.
So this is Ken, just to let you know, so the insulation requirement, just thinking about this, I mean, there's air conditioning units that are bigger than these micro cabins and they have less insulation and the temperatures inside are much, much colder. So they're running, 55, 60-degree air in those, and they're less insulated than these micro cabins. So.
I don't think you can buy a unit small enough for that square footage.
Right. So.
Is there electric in these for lighting or to do for the smoke alarms?
Yes. Permanent electrical distribution to each micro cabin would be mandatory. So that would be to avoid extension cords or things of that nature. Permanently installed lighting, interior and exterior, permanently installed receptacles, and of course the smoke detectors.
Thank you.
And air conditioning of some heating and
cooling. Both heating and cooling.
It strikes me that for a 70 square foot unit, you might have trouble providing cooling with regular commercially available equipment. It would be so oversized.
Yeah.
I think so.
Oh, yeah. It will be. I mean, you could get little tiny window shakers, right?
They're
So,
like 5,000 BTU.
Yeah.
Like half ton.
but even that's
That
gonna
would
be oversized. No matter what you get, it's oversized.
Wasn't there something in the sizing, the manual J's or whatever, that you're not supposed to oversize?
But you're limited to what is manufactured.
Okay, so there is a way to do it.
Right.
Yeah, you just have to use
Not
the
gonna be
smallest
optimal.
available unit,
Right.
even if it's way oversized. Okay, so at this point, we're kind of waiting for this other group to sort through some things. Is that where we're at?
Correct. We will continue to update the committee as substantial changes are made. The few points that I talked about are really the only changes that have been made thus far since the committee met last.
We'll move on to item 6, yes? Special inspection process.
This is Clayton with the city again. So the city is looking at revising or updating a policy as it specifically relates to special inspections. As a bit of a backstory, special inspections are those that are required by code but not performed by a jurisdiction. For example, welding is a specialized inspection discipline, okay, that jurisdictions do not maintain certified welding inspectors. So that requires that the owner of a building hire a neutral third party to perform those inspections. The city of Tucson's current policy has not been updated in several decades, and it is apparent that there are pain points associated with the city's current policy that inhibit either the issuance of permits or the closeout of permits. And so what we're really trying to do is make it as user-friendly as possible without impacting the permit process or the inspection process, but also set up the applicants for success. So we do have a meeting scheduled 2 weeks from today on Wednesday, June 3rd at 10 a.m. This is a virtual meeting. Anyone that has interest in that discussion is welcome to reach out to me. I'll forward them an invitation to that virtual meeting. But the agenda of the meeting is to discuss the contents of this proposed policy, any other pain points that the private firms may be experiencing, in any suggestions that we can incorporate to make this this new policy really functional.
So what are some of the pain points you're talking about?
So pain points. The current protocol for the city of Tucson requires what's referred to as a double stamp. It's a form that's stamped by the engineer of record identifying who would perform the inspections before the permit is issued.
Right.
That in and of itself is a bit of a pain point because it's a separate form, separate from the construction plan and engineering calculations and everything else. If we don't have that form, we can't issue the permit, even if the entire plan, design, and calculations are approved. So that can be a sticking point. Specifying an inspector long before the inspection may occur is also a sticking point, because if that individual is not available at the time that they need to perform the inspection, they're forced to hire someone else. So now the information for who would perform the inspection is not accurate. So one might even question what the effectiveness of identifying that individual in advance is if they're not ultimately going to be used. We do have a level of concern related to who is retained to perform those inspections, because there is specific code requirements as to their qualifications. And so what we don't want is a building owner hiring someone to perform an inspection, paying them, but finding out that they are not actually qualified and that inspection is not valid. So we're trying to set them up for success to make sure that they do retain qualified individuals. But if we regularly experience difficulties in getting these permits out the door, then one would question if the way that we're requiring those folks to be identified as effective.
Do you still maintain a list of the qualified special inspectors?
The city of Tucson does not, but Pima County does and Oro Valley does. There are several other cities in the state of Arizona. One recommendation is that we engage a number of the jurisdictions in the state to create a statewide list. So that is something that is being discussed outside of this policy, right? But ultimately, if we can create a statewide list that's consistent across every jurisdiction in the state, it would benefit everyone.
The requirement for a certified inspector is the same, right?
Correct.
Whether it's welding or whatever.
So this is very similar to what Phoenix has been doing for years, where if they've got a smoke detector, we have to seal the special inspection form saying that we will review this special inspection when it comes, and we're going to require it, review it, even though we've never see it afterwards, because it just goes straight to the city. But yeah, so there's this document that always holds up permit, because that separate form has to get sealed and signed and sent in. I think it also requires the owner's signature on that. So, yeah.
Exactly right. And so then another pain point that hopefully will be solved is the closeout of the activity. So when we get ready to issue a certificate of occupancy, the City of Tucson staff have to verify that all of the conditions identified before the permit is issued have been met. If one of those is a special inspection form, but we have not received that, we can't issue the certificate of occupancy. So, getting all the way up to the end of the project and now discovering that we're still missing the second half of this double stamp form has caused pain points for applicants trying to occupy their buildings. So we're also looking at how this policy can help shape the process and protocol for receiving the reports of those special inspections throughout the life of the project, rather than waiting to the end to make sure that we're receiving all of that documentation.
This is Fred. In other jurisdictions, what we do is, to your earlier point, we say we're going to employ one of these 4 or 5 testing agencies to do this work. That's how we get a permit issued. Then when it goes time to the field inspection, before they pass the structural steel inspection, the AHJ, they have to see that third party approval there at that point, that the welds passed, you know, they were X-rayed or whatever they were. And at that point, you know, it's just like a test air balance report. If we don't turn that in, you don't get a CFO either. So but you get it back then before the inspection passes. They get the third party inspection is the initial inspection, then the building official validates the third party inspection, and then it moves on to your next inspection. So that's how we do it with other jurisdictions.
Thank you for bringing that up, which is a great segue to the basis of where we've been developing this policy. The policy is actually modeled after a number of jurisdictions and the successes that other jurisdictions are occurring. So, for example, Pima County does not require the double stamp at all. Town of Marana will not pass an intermediate inspection without the report. So the more we engage other jurisdictions, we're gleaning successes from them, and we're ideally modeling all of these successes into one policy for ourselves, where it's a protocol. We're not going to require a specific form to issue the permit, but still require the inspector to be identified. Not passing intermediate inspections until we receive the reports is a process shift for the city of Tucson and how we perform our inspections. So that is exactly how, you know, the contents of this policy have been developed, as the successes we've seen from other jurisdictions.
So it kind of makes more sense. I mean, I've got 2 kinds of contractors. One, they get the inspection when they need the inspection, and they send me the inspection form as they go along. And then you got other contractors who call up and say, I can't get my CFO because I don't have my inspection. But requiring it during the process, probably make them more aware, I mean.
Well, this is, you want to do it during the process anyway, so because you don't want to close up the wells before you get the certified well.
Well, not all your comrades are so diligent.
Yeah.
It's hard to get a special inspection when you're trying to get the CFO.
So all the discussion on special inspection has been around things like structural issues, you know, welding, steel connections and all that. But there's another side to it, which is outdoor lighting special inspections. And then I heard reference to things like the air balance report. Is that considered a special?
This is Clayton. An air balance report is not considered a special inspection, but we are being cognizant of inspections that would occur after the building is completed, such as outdoor lighting. You know, that special inspection is one of the few that rarely happens while the building is under construction. It only happens at the very end.
I'm trying to figure out how it relates to the process that you're trying to do, because you'd identified that you want to actually on the permit issue side is there would be like a professional that would have to be in charge of doing all the special inspections. And what I'm afraid of is them forgetting about outdoor lighting, or that we're so different from the others that maybe it's a different process for outdoor lighting compared to structural type and foundation inspections, those type of things. And I don't know if it should be or not, but again, I've got my blinders on because I do outdoor lighting special inspections, and I all I know is that. But very often we get called in from a panicked client. How soon can you do it? It's holding up the C of O because nobody remembered. Very often there is no intermediate middle part of the certificate stamped. We only do the last inspection. Not sure why all that happens, but occasionally we get asked to fill out the middle part of the form.
Some of the plan reviewers have been asking that those special inspections be listed. But the balance report is not a special inspection. The water sterilization is not a special inspection, but those are two things that hold up the CFO.
So just as a point of clarification, this is Clayton again. Air balance reports, sterilization reports, those are conditions that get added to permits, but they are not considered special inspections. So just want to clarify, there is any number of conditions that might be added before the permit is issued. Floodplain use permit, so on and so forth, right? We can identify any number of things that would be a condition of approval, that this is a responsibility that may be a deferred submittal, may be documentation that's required, or might be an activity that's required. But out of all of those conditions or conditions of approval, we are honing in on the ones that are identified in the International Building Code as special inspections.
And we do have that in the outdoor lighting code identified as special inspections. Is that a mistake? Should it be something else? Because it's not the same as the process of the building code, or does it? I don't know the answer. I'm just thinking that may be something we need to think about.
That's a really great point. We'll be sure to add that.
Maybe it works a little bit different from the building code inspections. And maybe it's addressed in the outdoor lighting code rather than.
This is Dan. It would still be in the county. We would put a hold on the final inspection until we would receive the lighting, your lighting special inspection report. But like Clayton said, that's where the county's a little bit different.
I mean, that sort of feels more like an air balance report to me.
Well, they all function the same way, even
Yeah.
with special inspection or masonry or whatever. Right now, all of ours are put on the final inspection. Maybe.
So they all carry kind of equal weight. I mean, just that they have to be done, and it's really upon the builder or the owner to make sure that everything happens properly so that they can finally turn in those documents.
Correct.
Well, there are those inspections that have to be done during construction,
Mhm.
those that can be done after. Lighting, water sterilization, air balance, hoping the mechanical guy did his job correctly. You can do those after. But welding, you can't do that.
No, absolutely.
I mean, that's why I like including it on an inspection before everything gets closed up and you can't do the special inspection.
Sure.
I don't know what you guys do. But they did get those special inspections and they're trying to get the CFO.
We kind of leave it up to the contractor on, or whoever, are you gonna tear stuff off?
You have to open it up.
Then they call me and yell at him.
No, I'm sure they do. Some, right now, the only one we actually do an intermediate hold on is if the fire district requires a intermediate inspection before they can continue in the county. I'm not disagreeing with what Fred said. I think that's a good way to make sure you get it, because our biggest complaint is they always wait until the day before they want the CFO, and then they send all the reports.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, I'm curious. When you send them in as you go, do you review them then?
yes, we do.
You?
Mhm.
Okay,
They're reviewed, for the city of Tucson, they're reviewed as they're received.
Yes.
okay.
We-
'Cause I know I sent them in, but then I don't hear. Which I assume is a good sign that they were okay.
For the city of Tucson, you can always look at the conditions that are attached to the permit, because once the report is approved, the condition is cleared. We're satisfied,
Okay.
most specifically.
Yeah. And that's what a lot of people miss is those conditions.
Yes, you're absolutely right.
This is Dave. So Clayton, you're saying that you're basically alerting us that there's some process improvements you're looking at for special inspections based on past feedback.
Exactly. We are targeting a July 1 implementation date for the shift. And so, this is the process to make sure that shift, satisfies all of our current needs and addresses any specific concerns from our constituents.
Comments on special inspections? All dealt with them, I'm sure. We can try to call at the end. Okay, so let's move on to item 7, committee discussion on building codes and related items. So this is for anything that you want to add or Scott? Anybody have anything they need to bring up? Oh, everybody's so happy. Okay, well, let's move to 8 future agenda items. So can you summarize what's going to be on the next agenda for us quickly there, Clayton?
Absolutely. So this is Clayton with the city of Tucson. We will have an energy conservation code agenda item with several sub items below that. The first would be automatic receptacle control function, according to C 405.12, energy model monitoring, according to C 405.13, renewable energy systems, according to CO 5.15, and building size for additional energy credits, C 406.1. But we will most likely break apart a separate agenda item for load management, which is also part of CO 406.1, but may be, values to have a separate discussion on, energy credits versus load management and any specific considerations that may apply to one but not the other. And then we will continue our discussion for emergency housing and micro cabins.
Okay, special inspection is going to be brought back then, do you think?
We'd be happy to provide an update following the meeting that happens in 2 weeks.
Right. So anybody else have something they want to put on the future agenda? That we don't have? Okay, item 9, what we all been waiting for, adjournment. So what are we doing? Do we need a motion in a second?
You don't, but if you need one, I'll make the motion instead.
We don't want to get in trouble with the attorneys, you know. Okay, so we have a motion and a second.
This is Ken, I'll second.
Any opposed? Okay, we are adjourned.
Thank you, Chairman.
Interesting meeting today.
So Dan, I'll reach out to some people in 90.1
They are off.
Okay,
and
Let's get it.
and get their
There's
input
a few
on
issues
how these
that
were
might be
adopted.
off.
okay, no, that'd be great. And I'm gonna
So-
actually purchase it.